they've been trained to think that this is how the world works. But I think instinctively we all know that it doesn't work that way. Everybody has a worldview, right? Everybody sees the world in a certain way. And the predominant way people see the world today, especially in this culture, is through this lens of postmodernism, which is really a reaction against the rationalism of the modern age. And so it's really being called, a lot of people are calling it a post-truth culture. And so the best way we could understand what postmodernism is probably by looking at a few catchphrases that you've probably heard. You've all heard, what's true for you is true for you, but what's true for me is true for me. Has anybody heard something like that? Or maybe they'll say, well, you should live your truth and I'll live my truth. And so that's all informed by postmodernism, which essentially is built upon a view of the nature of truth, which is called relativism. Now, I believe the correct view of truth is defined as a belief statement or a proposition that lines up with reality. I know that seems like just common sense, but we have to define these things because the predominant view in culture is that that's not what truth is. In fact, truth isn't knowable. If there is objective truth, no one has access to it. So basically, we're being told to live your truth. So a whole group of generation of people have been just they've caught this idea that we should live not by seeking what's true outside of ourselves in objective reality, but we need to figure out what we agree with, or we need to figure out what works for us, or what we think is good, rather than what is true. In fact, I said in the luncheon yesterday, in the apologetics world, which if you're not familiar with apologetics, very simply, it just means giving reasons for what you believe. So in the Christian apologetics world, people are going to come from all sorts of different angles, from science, philosophy, archaeology, history, biblical scholarship, to give reasons why Christianity is true. So in the apologetics world, we see this, that we have to actually convince people that truth exists before we can even, many times, share the gospel. Because if they think that religion is just a matter of opinion, it's like what works for you, find out what makes you happy, and then live that way. And then if somebody else finds something else that makes them happy, they can live that way. They've been trained to think that this is how the world works. But I think instinctively we all know that it doesn't work that way, right? Everybody puts money in the bank, and then they go to the bank and they expect there to be a certain amount of money in the bank.
There's not 20 versions of truth.
Yeah, you don't go to the teller and the teller say, hey, well, you said you have $800 in the bank. That's just your truth. But my truth is that I don't see that.
Or my truth is that that's actually my money.
Yeah, that
not
truth,
your money.
my truth is actually, I'm just going to put my name on that account because that's my truth. Obviously, we know truth doesn't work that way. So we're living in a culture where this is all just caught. And so we have to actually convince people that truth exists and can be known before we can even sometimes go beyond that.